On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may be seated. The second announcement, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of the 3 consultants in artificial intelligence. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. Thank you. You may take your seat. The last announcement, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Shama School in Chongwe District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may be seated. We now move to urgent matters without notice. The honorable member for Bangweulu.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. The matter I wish to raise is directed at the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Mutolo. Madam Speaker, we are just coming out of the drought, and the rains have just started. And there are so many people this time around, especially in the part of Southern Province where it is raining now. People have already started buying maize field. Imagine maize which has not yet reached at the knee height, which is very worrying this time around. And imagine the President was just praying for the rains last month, and we had some people, some of the people in the alliance partners who are praying hard that we must not have rains, and they are hoping that we don't have rains. And the reason they are saying that they want the 19 million Zambia to continue going hungry, which is not good. And those are the people who fought for them. But they want them to go hungry, not to continue suffering the way they have been suffering in this current drought situation we are in. Madam Speaker, I want this minister, okay, to give a word of hope to the people of Zambia, to the farmers, so that those farmers who are ready to plant, they can go now full swing to plant maize so that we can have enough food for our citizens, not the hope which these other people are hoping that the Zambian people should continue going hungry. Madam Speaker, I thank you very much.
The honorable member for Bangweulu, you were not specific enough because you brought in 2 matters where you said some people, they want the drought to prolong. I don't know whether you've got evidence of those people who were against the rains. And then you also talked about another issue where people have started buying maize fields. So when you are raising these matters of matters without notice, you are supposed to be very specific. So I would advise the honorable member to find another platform to bring up those 2 issues. The honorable member for Katombola.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My urgent question without notice goes to the Minister of Agriculture. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister of Agriculture, you are a hard-working minister, very, very hard-working minister. One of the most hard-working in the history of this country, Madam Speaker. The people of Katombola right now have started experiencing serious rains, and His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema was in my constituency on the 5th of November 2024, and he did address the issue, Honorable Minister, pertaining to the vastness of Katombola constituency and the problems that are there in the buying of maize. People have to move from Momba to go to Kazungura border. That is over 400 kilometers. the President directed that there should be urgent measures to ensure that the procedure of buying maize in Katombola constituency is simplified. Because now the rain has started, some places will soon become impassable, Honourable Minister, and life can be lost. There is a declaration of a disaster by His Excellency the President. So could you assure the people of Katombola that they will be buying maize in an easier way as guided by His Excellency the President when he came to Nyawa at the traditional ceremony of Guta Mwenzebwe, traditional ceremony at Chief Nyawa. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Again, this seems to be an odd matter. When you are looking at these urgent matters without notice, it is something that is supposed to be raised within 4 hours of its occurrence. You mentioned that, is it a month ago when His Excellency visited your constituency? So this does not qualify under urgent matters without notice. You can come up with a question, Honourable Member for Katombola. Since it's the beginning of the rain season, and we've heard a lot of complaint about how difficult it is to buy the maize, is this the relief maize that you are talking about, Honourable Member? If it's the relief maize, I would advise the Honourable Member to come up with an urgent question so that the people can be helped. The Honourable Member for Bahati. Oh.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the country experienced a power blackout a couple of days ago. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the nation experienced a power blackout just a couple of days ago. And Madam Speaker, government has not... Government,
the Honourable
Speaker,
Member for Bahati, you are addressing me, not the Honourable Member from the right. So can you be guided and continue with your urgent matter?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm directing this urgent matter without notice to the Minister of Energy. Madam Speaker, the nation experienced a power blackout just a couple of days ago. Madam Speaker, government has not come out to explain what really caused the national blackout which was experienced. Madam Speaker, the process of restoration, which is known as the Black Start, was delayed by ZESCO. Madam Speaker, ZESCO delayed to restore power at UTH. They delayed to restore power at State House, delayed to restore power at the airport, and delayed to restore power at this institution. Madam Speaker, these are the critical institutions which should have power immediate, which should have power like 20 minutes after a blackout.
Calm down. Relax.
Madam Speaker, is the minister in order, Madam Speaker, to remain quiet without coming here on the floor of this house and explain to the country why the nation experienced a power blackout? Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Order. The Honourable Member for Bangweulu, when you were raising the matter, Bahati, sorry, the Honourable Member for Bangweulu, I meant the Honourable Member for Bahati. When you were raising your matter, you mentioned 2 items there. The issue of not having power, there was a blackout, and then you went ahead to talk about the areas where there was light, there was there was late installation of power, such as the hospital, the airport. So there are 2 issues that you mentioned there. Moreover, There was a statement that was issued by ZESCO and also the PS for Ministry of Energy. There was also an apology which I saw in the paper over the same. So really I don't know whether this statement should be repeated in the House. So the Honorable Member for Bahati, please find another platform where you can bring that matter. It's inadmissible because you brought two matters in one. You are supposed to speak. We make progress. There is a point of order. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Standing Order number 142 is the urgent matter without notice. Madam Speaker, this is the basis for my point of order. And I rise on this point of order on my honorable colleague from Bangweulu, Honorable Michelo Kasauta. Madam Speaker, two honorable members here are now calling this point of order as a point of jealousy. The Minister of Sport and the MP from... Madam, standing orders. The order I have quoted is contained herein. This is important business. Madam Speaker, is my honorable colleague, Honorable Michelo, in order to come and waste the Zambian people's time by raising a matter which does not exist when the UPND government is infested with a lot of scandals. The Zambian people are suffering.
Order. Madam. Don't debate your point of order.
I will not, and I will stop there. Madam, the Zambian people are suffering as a result of the recklessness and lack of care for the UPND government. Is Honorable Michelo in order to come and politicize a very important section where members like the Honorable Member from Pika has indicated to raise a matter, but it goes to him.
Order, Honorable Member. You may take your seat. I've heard you. I've heard your point of order. The Honorable Member for Lunte. All honorable members, when they are in this house, they've got the right to talk or to speak. Further, the honorable member, when he raised that matter, I didn't admit it. Because I even asked him to say, do you have evidence? And he was not specific. The matter was not admitted. And it ended there. So, if the matter was admitted, then there was going to be something wrong about it. But the fact is that that matter was not admitted. It was not accepted. So we make progress. We make progress. We now move to questions for oral answer under Standing Order number 80. The Honorable Member for Kwacha. The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The people of Kwacha have the pleasure to ask question 135.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you,
the Honorable Member for Mukushi. I didn't give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
There is no need of shouting. The Honorable Minister of Education, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. C. Muleng of Kwacha Constituency is asking the Minister of Education, A, when the construction
of the Copperbelt University students' hostels will be completed. B, when the works will resume. C, what the cause of the delay in completing the project is. And D, what the cost of the outstanding works on the project is. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that A, the construction of Copperbelt University students' hostels is planned for completion within the 2025-2027 medium-term budget framework. However, the engineer's assessment estimates a completion period of 24 months, contingent upon the availability of funds. And B, the works are set to resume in 2025. C, the delay in completing the project is attributed to financial constraints explained by the ministry during project implementation. D, the
Honourable members, order.
D, the cost of outstanding works on the project will be determined upon the completion of the needs assessment, which will guide the preparation of the bill of quantities. However, lot 1 out of 5 lots, which has already been finalized and is pending contract signing, is estimated to cost 123,596,062 kwacha 56 ingwe. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
There was an indication for a point of order. The Honourable Member for Mukushi South. What is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I need your protection. Madam Speaker, my point of order is directed to the Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, my point of order is pursuant on 71. In 2023, Madam Speaker, we passed a budget here. And the minister there was standing that every constituency is going to receive 30 million kwacha. And the people of Zambia, what they know is that we have this 30 million kwacha in our banks, in our respective constituencies. Madam Speaker, so far we are now finishing the year, and this is November. Mukushi South constituency has only received 10.4 million kwacha.
Order, honourable members. Order. You may continue, honourable member.
Madam Speaker, we have made requests for the payments of 13 million kwacha for the past 2 months. And then the minister there seated there, deliberately he has ignored not to give us the money. It's the Minister of Finance, Madam Speaker, in order not to give money for the people of Luano when they are also taxpayers, and he knows very well that that is taxpayers' money, Madam Speaker, which we need. I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Order. The honourable member for Mukushi South, you are out of order. Because this is an old matter, you should have found another platform of bringing that matter to the House. Otherwise, it's not admissible. Supplementary questions. The honourable member for Kamfinsa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. May I take this opportunity to ask the Minister of Education a follow-up question regarding the hostels that are under discussion at the Copperbelt University. Honorable Minister, in your statement, you have informed the public that there is a needs assessment that is being done, and that currently there's a bill of quantity that has to be developed for the hostels that are in Kitwe to be constructed. Madam Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister, the budget that has been set aside for this activity, I'm assuming that it covers University of Zambia,
It covers CBU as well as other public institutions that have got hostels. Are you able to inform the public how much has been set aside for the particular topic under discussion today, which is the CBU hostels? Out of the amount that you've allocated, how much has been set aside for the CBU hostels? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I said there's only one lot which we are going to sign the contract. The other lots are still waiting. Because you remember, these buildings stored a long time ago. And so the contracts came to an end, and we had not to, some of them re-advertise, or out of those who were building those, we are bringing them back. So they are reassessing. Obviously, for example, I will tell you that there is the same, this lot, which is now costing 123 million, was at 73 million. Because now, over the years, because some government was not paying in order for them to complete those, it has taken us to this much. So some of them, the other lots, which are 4, are still being assessed. Some of them they are waiting to be signed after the Attorney General has given us a go-ahead. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I just want you to be, I'm not so clear. When you say 123 million has been earmarked under the 2025 budget, if we are certain that come 2025, CBU hostels will actually be completed out of that budgeted allocated figure. I'm saying so because, Honorable Minister, the accommodation crisis at CBU has reached alarming levels, such that a majority of students accommodated in hostels outside the university are at high risk of being attacked by thugs, especially in the night as they are walking back to their respective hostels to go and sleep. So I just want to be very, very clear from you. Out of the 123 million that has been earmarked, are we certain that completion will actually be realized? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I see this 123 million is just. Remember, I said that there are 5 lots, and this 123 million is for one lot. You know, they are at different levels of completion, so we cannot put this that the other 4 will be contained in here. No. So after we have calculated the levels of completion, obviously they will differ. Perhaps some will cost 60 million, perhaps others will cost 70 million, depending on how far they were. This one, the 123 million, is just for one lot. The 4 are not yet here. So obviously they will have their own money. But I agree with you that indeed there is a dire need for accommodation. And I can tell you, if PF were paying, we couldn't have reached this far. Yeah. You know? In some cases, since 2015, at CBU, there's not even a slab. Right? So these are lots which have already begun. Some of them are not there. But as usual, this is the way they used to behave everywhere. Touring projects sometimes up to more than 10 years. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Rubasenshi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for permitting the people of Rubasenshi constituents to ask a follow-up question. Honorable Minister, the question brought by our Member of Parliament for Kwacha is very important. You agree with me that these are future generations that we are looking at. Now, Madam Speaker, looking at the intention to construct more hostels for the students was to graduate from what is happening, where one room is occupied by 5, 6, 7 students, and on the other side the government just know that in that room there is only one student, and that person is even charging other people, other fellow students, making money out of it. For me, which is an anomaly that needs to be quickly corrected. Now, since you are doing the assessment and other things, what intervention or quick interventions are you putting in place to ensure that that issue of squatting one room, maybe 5, 6 students come to stop? I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have no option but to hasten rather than to wait until 7, 10 years. No. So within this budget framework, 2025 and 2027, we must hasten so that we even complete them even before 2026 itself. So it's just a matter of being quick and not just wait until the bills have accumulated to this much from 75 million to 123 million. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
Honorable Minister, maybe as a way to assist government, looking at budgeted allocations in our country, it has been a challenge because of the compounding needs against the limited resources. Why can't your ministry take probably an active role to lobby for assistance, maybe from other international reputable organizations, probably from other countries or organizations like JICA, who can be more than willing to come through and assist the government in this regard? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, JICA is already doing a lot of things to help us, but not necessarily in the field of building hostels. Obviously, you are saying other countries. We shall try. If they agree, they agree. But we must work within our resources. And this is why I'm saying that we have to hasten to do all these things so that we are not caught up in a web like this. Thank you.
We make progress. Next question, the Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Question number 136.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Member of Parliament for Nyimba, Mr. Zulu, is asking the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development at A whether or not government has any plans to upgrade selected roads in Nyimba district to bituminous standard. At B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. At C, he wishes to know what the estimated cost of the project is. At D, he wishes to know how many kilometers of road will be upgraded, and last but not least, at E, he wishes to know if there are no plans, why. In our response, Madam Speaker, we wish to inform the Honourable Member of Parliament for Nyimba that government indeed has plans to upgrade selected roads in his constituency, Nyimba parliamentary constituency, in Nyimba district to bituminous standard. At B, the plans will only be implemented when the funds are available for that exercise. At C, the estimated costs for this project will only be established when and only when the draft designs and bills of quantities are developed. At D, the number of kilometers to be upgraded will also be known once the designs have been developed based on the available funding. And at E, as indicated at A above, the plans are there, therefore E automatically falls out. Thank you, Madam.
Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the year 2011-2012, there was an approved plan to construct 14 kilometers of township roads in Nyimba district. The contractor mobilized equipment and they started doing graveling and coming up with whatever, I don't know how they call the works they are doing, but nevertheless they did the graveling and they started backfilling those roads. The question, after the demise of Michael Chirushasata, the project is told it died with him. Today, Madam Speaker, there is no road, there is nothing to call a road in the district. The question to the Minister of Local Government. Minister, you understand, the good part is that you understand good numbers of districts in the in this country. The issue of money being available, which was available then, where did the money go? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Honorable Madam Speaker. And thank you very much, colleague and friend, Honorable Menyani Zulu. The question is, where did the money go? And he also laces his question with the fact that it appears this project died with the then President, Mr. Michael Chirushasata, may he so rest in peace. I wish to inform you, Honorable Member of Parliament, that the demise of what you call the project had no relationship whatsoever with the loss of the head of state. The two must never be clubbed together. What the truth is, however, is that we are having to answer questions for the sins of the past administration, and I will explain what I mean. Madam, in 2011, the administration then, whose name you know, embarked on an unreasonably ambitious plan, a populist plan to impress Zambians, and they signed up contracts for putting bituminous standard roads nearly in all towns of this country, including Mazabuka, where I'm privileged to be the MP. And I was there in this house at the time that you are describing as though what was going on in Nyimba was exactly the same that was going on in Mazabuka. The minister of the province then came to commission the commencement of 20-kilometer road in Mazabuka. There was big statements, big news. I can tell you now that many years later, there's not even a single kilometer of road in Mazabuka, where I am the MP and fortunate to be the minister responsible for the ministry that is responsible for township roads. Yes, at one point, around 2017, subject to correction, the Minister of Finance, I can't remember whether it was Honorable Mtati sitting next to me or Margaret Mwanakatwe, came and made a statement to say that all projects that they had embarked on that were below 80% completion had to be stopped. Dr. Walyangandu? Thank you. Thank you for that correction. So we can work together. And you understand that the death of your roads in Nyimba, as you call it, had nothing to do with the demise of our dear president, Mr. Michael Chilushasato. So after that big pronouncement, it goes without saying that they had signed up and committed contracts with everybody who was assigned to do these jobs, and interest was running even after they stopped any project that was below 80% completion. That was the beginning of trouble in the ministry that I'm privileged to run, because ever since then, contractors, most of whom were members of the same political party that I'm referring to, started computing interest. And those interest rates, Madam Speaker, are still sitting in our financials today. The fortunate thing is that there was a minister who realized that this direction we've taken is the wrong direction and is not sustainable. So we've all suffered the peril of having had a promise.
Order. Order, Honorable Minister. There's an indication for a point of order. What is your point of order, the Honorable Member for Bangweulu?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The point of order is on the Minister who was just on the floor. Standing Order 71A. The member who is debating shall confine his or her debate to the subject under discussion. The issue we are discussing is the question concerning the roads in Nyimba. But, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development has gone outside the boundaries to begin to discuss the township roads in Mazabuka, when the issue we are discussing is about the roads in Nyimba. Is the Honourable Minister in order to deviate from the question on the table and start discussing?
You may continue, Honourable Member.
Is the Minister in order to move away from the question at hand and begin to discuss the issue that is not being discussed now? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The issue of Mazabuka, I was listening very attentively. The Minister mentioned Mazabuka just as an example to say it wasn't only Nyimba, but also Mazabuka. My guide would be that, Honourable Members, as we ask the questions, can we be specific to the question that is on the order paper? Because the Minister will also be forced to respond to the question that is raised. For example, the question that was raised, where did the money go? I was also wondering which is the money. So in the effort to answer that question, I think the Honourable Minister started by now giving a background as to what happened, because he mentioned the late President Michael Sata. So the Minister also was trying to answer the question as it was asked by the Honourable Member for Nyimba. So, Honourable Members, as we ask these questions, can we be mindful of the question on the order paper? So the Minister was answering the question that was raised by the Honourable Member for Nyimba, starting from the death of the President, Michael Sata. Can we restrict ourselves to the question on the order paper? The Honourable Minister, please, you can wind up your answer, your response.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Member of Parliament for Nyimba deserves a very well qualified, clear answer from the manner he is concerned about the roads in his constituency, And also, Madam, the colleague and friend who raises the point of order need to understand that it's normal that the guilty are afraid. Those who caused us this problem know themselves. And that's why it's important that an MP like Honorable Zulu,
the honorable member for
who was not in Parliament at the time when the
local government, let's not debate ourselves. Just conclude on your answer, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Madam. I'm still coming to answer the question where the money may have gone as I terminate the answer. The MP for Nyimba, who was not in this house, requires to understand exactly what happened, lest I am accused of failing to answer a question. And he terminated by saying, where did the money go? I'll come to that. Now, it is clear this party that was in government had overcommitted itself. And they did not respect the appropriation bill, which is law, passed by this government, by going ahead to overcommit themselves and even subject the country to debt, which we inherited. So, sir, there was no money to begin with. It was just wishful thinking by a group of people one can deem to be like cowboys who wanted to impress the country and even calling it a construction site.
The use of the word cowboys, if you can
I withdraw the word cowboys and replace it with overzealous populist leaders who kept saying Zambia is now a construction site. Today you have been denied this road because most of the money that we should have been using to construct these roads is still on the books as interest to people of their kind, some of whom are in this house, this particular house.
The honorable member for Kaumbwe.
Yeah. That was nice.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, to ask a follow-up question on the district road situation in Nyimba. Minister, it is just, I just want to seek advice from you. The district roads, the condition of district roads is synonymous in most of the districts. Nyimba, Petauke, Sinda, Mazabuka, everywhere else. Now that we have an opportunity through the enhanced CDF that we are buying earth-moving equipment, would it be prudent enough that constituencies that are closer to each other, like Nyimba constituency, Kaumbwe constituency, Petauke Central constituency, we team up and buy bituminous surface equipment, like asphalt paver and an asphalt plant that would be able to service these district roads into bituminous standards. I thank you.
Before the minister comes in, the honorable member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for permitting me to raise this very important point of order. Earlier, Madam Speaker, you had guided the Honorable Minister responsible for local government and rural development that in here, we don't debate ourselves. Madam Speaker, my point of order is pursuant to Standing Order 71. This is the 4th year of our colleagues being in government. And obviously people now have gotten used to just waking up and learning about scandals one after another. Criminal scandals. Criminal scandals, Madam Speaker. And they are confessing themselves, Madam Speaker. And pointing each other on where the scandals are happening. But the Honorable Minister of Local Government has repeatedly come to this August House and insinuated that in here there are some members who he suspects to have done some wrongs in the road sector under his ministry. I had the privilege to serve under that ministry, Madam Speaker, and I would love to put this matter to rest. Isn't it time that the Honorable Minister came to this August House to lay the names of those that he is accusing? Yes. The past 4 years, Honorable Minister, wouldn't it just be ideal that we put this matter to rest? Because innuendos, Madam Speakers, have continued. This is the 4th year. Wouldn't that is in order to continue pointing to that issue without coming to the August House with the list of those that he suspects to have committed illegalities under the Ministry of Local Government? I think you're serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, in fact, you debated your point of order. But you already guided, Honorable Members, we are not supposed to debate ourselves. Whether through a list or mentioning names or any other form, as long as we are in this house, we are not supposed to debate ourselves. So the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, I think you can find another platform, but not in this house where the minister should come with a list, because we do not debate ourselves. So that point of order is not admissible. The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to answer the question from the Honorable MP for Kaumbwe Parliamentary Constituency. Yes, indeed. Certain matters require to be put to rest, and to be put to rest for good. And this is the reason why the MP for Shiwangandu, who knows very well that he's not one of those who were doing roads because he was a minister, has raised that question. Sometimes when you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. And there are honorable members of parliament here.
The Honorable Minister, let's not debate ourselves. You may maybe continue.
Madam,
order, the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, I haven't given you the floor.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate everything, and this is a house that anchors on truth. There are MPs, Madam, who I respect a lot. A great deal of respect, such as the MP from Porokoso. He's seated there. He made a declaration here publicly that he was one of the contractors, and he was a good contractor, one of the good contractors. He's there. But there are some in here who, if I'm dared one more time, I will go ahead and do it. But it's unfair, like you have guided, for us to take that route. And I needed to say this because at one point, Madam Speaker.
Order, Honorable Member for Shiwangandu. Please, the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, please take your seat. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, please take your seat. That is the badness, or that is why debating ourselves is not allowed in the House. Order. Order, honorable members. On my left, order. We want to make progress. The Honorable Minister of Local Government, you may continue.
Thank you.
Guided.
Thank you once again. As guided, Madam, that matter will be rested, and it will be rested by me saying, when you make your bed, you must be ready to sleep in it. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Kaumbwe raises a very important and progressive question. And this is the reason why this government that is led by Dr. Hakainde Hichilema decided to take the approach of local authorities buying equipment on their own. And I take this moment to congratulate all those local authorities and MPs who heeded to that advice. Because this is a journey of a million miles, starts with one step. We've got the equipment now. The President has been on record here congratulating the 3 MPs for Kankoyo, Kantanshi and Mufulira for working together. It is public information. I have also given them the accolades of cooperation, the MPs for Mufulira. What you are asking for, sir, you are banging an open door. This is the way to go. I promise you that if we can get equipment that can spread asphalt, that can spread bitumen, as councils we amalgamate resources, that's just the way to go. And I will take that question as a way of giving me wisdom to pursue that route. And take MPs, take an example of such an MP to ask progressive questions. We can do it. Even 5 constituents can put the resources together and then give each other time to say, from this month to that month, they will be in this constituency. From this month to that, within 2 years, we'll have tarred all our roads. Congratulations. I take my hat off you, sir, for such a progressive question.
The last member, the Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Despite all these things, permit me, Madam Speaker, still to thank the Minister of Local Government, as instructed by the good people of Nyimba. That Minister, that project you have started from Greatest Road to the district hospital, they are saying they are happy and worried, but they are very happy. The only thing they are worried is that they are worried that it might be one of those projects which haven't been completed in the district. And they are saying, can you tell the Minister of Local Government to make sure that the Minister of Finance makes sure he releases the money for that stretch to be done. Madam Speaker, the last question to the Minister of Local Government. Now that the MP for Kaumbwe has come up with a plan, which he was just telling me 4 days ago when we were in Nyimba, and he's got a very brilliant plan, which I think the government should listen to him in terms of tarmac. He's got a cheaper way of doing things. The question is, are you in agreement with the proposal from the Kaumbwe parliamentarian that district which are closer like Kaumbwe itself, Petauke Central, Nyimba and Lusangazi, because it was one former single constituency then, can put up resources together and buy asphalt equipment so that we can start doing without passing those length procurement process which will take us 2 years to just process, to buy equipment to do chip and spray as advised by the MP for Kaumbwe, Dr. Mwanza. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, let me just thank the MP for Nyimba for the acknowledgement of the work that we are doing in his constituency despite the very tough and tight fiscal space. Honorable MP, I am already sold out to the idea from the MP for Nyimba. Sold out completely. That's how easy it is to convince me. The moment he just pronounced it, I said, there goes a clever man, giving government a check and balance. An idea that has never crossed my mind, that we can buy asphalt equipment. There it is. What took us so long to find solutions? Even if as a province, say Eastern Province, you have 20 constituencies, you decide to buy 2, you put money together, we'll agree. We'll agree, we'll not take 1 minute. The issue about procurement that you raise is outside my ambit, Madam Speaker. But since we are one government, we would make sure that this happens ASAP, as soon as possible. And maybe to just demonstrate how well we embrace these big capital projects, ask Lukulu MP and Choma Central together with Mbawala. They recognize that the needs of their constituencies was water. For the first time, the CDF for Lukulu went and bought a water rig, brand new water rig. So they're just punching balls anytime, anywhere they want in their constituency. Let's take a leaf from such examples and make this country a better.
In Bangweulu parliamentary constituency will commence. B, what the time frame for the completion of the project is. C, who the contractor for the project is. And D, what the cost of the project is. Madam Speaker, the response from government to A is, the government through the Road Development Agency is currently undertaking maintenance works on the Mpata-Kata-Nshakapata Road in Bangweulu constituency. B, the maintenance works are scheduled to be completed by 31st December 2024. C, the works are being carried out by the Road Development Agency under the force account. And D, the total cost of the project is estimated at 13,816,986. 44 Ngwe. Submit.
Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Bangweulu.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Honorable Minister, you've just informed the public that that road is being worked on by RDA. And you are 100% aware that RDA has no equipment. So I just want to find out, and you have made commitment here that by 31st of December this year, the works will be completed. So may I know, the people of Bangweulu would like to know, because as I'm speaking now, there is no proper equipment on site. So may the people of Bangweulu be informed through you, Minister, when RDA will be helped with the equipment to ensure that the road is done by the deadline you have given to us. Because as far as I'm concerned, RDA has no single equipment to do that road. Madam Speaker, I submit.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, in construction, you don't really need to own any equipment. You can always hire. So I suspect that RDA will be able to hire this equipment and complete the works as specified in my statement. I submit.
The Honorable Member for Bangweulu.
Madam Speaker, the hiring of equipment is what RDA has been coupling with for the past 4 years. Because I had been to RDA so many times, and I have also been to RDA regional office in Luapula province. And their complaint is that they have no equipment. Even when they push in the request to hire equipment, it takes a lot of time. For instance, the request to hire equipment was pushed in May. Up to today, the approval for hiring equipment has not been granted. So, Madam Speaker, I want the Minister to just be honest and tell us if at all they are going to do that road or not. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member of Parliament seems to know what is happening, but I've given a government assurance that this road will be completed in December next month. I submit.
December, next week.
I'll take the last member, the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and indeed, Acting Minister is a befitting one, because this is the industry he knows very well, because there has been also a contractor there. Honorable Minister, you know the capacity of RDA now to undertake any major rehab works. Isn't it ideal that this stretch of the road is just contracted? You will get a contractor to do that road instead of depending on RDA to hire equipment. And as I'm saying, Madam Speaker, I'm happy that we are now settling this matter of who has done what in the construction sector, as the Minister of Local Government was belaboring.
What is
because
the
there, Madam Speaker, I can count and I'll help him with a list of
the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, can you please ask your
from
question?
the far left. Madam Speaker, I'm trying to find out from the Honorable Minister why they shouldn't just contract a contractor to do that stretch instead of depending on RDA. I thank you.
Before the Honorable Minister comes in, there is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, as you saw, I was just seated here quietly and decently minding my own business, listening to the deliberations of Parliament, when the MP for Shiwangandu, who was pointing a finger at me, his finger was pointing at me, in order to bring me in his argument, even using his finger. And we are told that, you know, even peers or age mates, you don't point at them, but let alone adults like myself. Is in order to bring me in his debate using his mouth and his finger. When I'm seated here very quietly as a very polite and attentive MP and minister, is in order to carry on this way that colleague, the MP who was pointing a finger at me, is it possible to ask him to withdraw that finger before you make a ruling, Madam Speaker?
Can you cite the standing order, Honorable Minister?
Madam Speaker, give me the mic. Just a minute, I've been here long enough.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, the point of order that I raised is pursuant to the conduct of a member, and in a minute, since I've been challenged to cite it, let me go to the index of this book, which I religiously keep. And it is as follows. Content of speech. It is order number 71. And it actually now speaks to two. It says at A member who is debating shall not impute any improper motives. I beg your pardon. This is to the President. Yes, it is 1A. A member who is debating shall confine his or her debate to the subject under discussion. And here I am, Madam, seated alone. I'm not under discussion. Then he decides to bring me in using his finger. Is it possible you can ask him to first withdraw that finger as it's a sign of disrespect before you make your ruling. I seek your indulgence, ma'am.
Well, according to the standing orders, we failed to cite the correct standing orders, but culturally, maybe you can say that we don't point fingers at each other. That is the more reason, honorable members, each time when you are debating, asking a question, you face the presiding officers instead of facing the other honorable members. You address whatever your debate or your question to the presiding officers. So in that manner, I don't think that issue would have occurred, where somebody was pointing fingers and the minister retained 5 fingers to the member. So on a lighter note, honorable members, we make progress, but a guide is that whenever you are speaking, speak through the chair or the presiding officer. We make progress. The Honorable Minister, the Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, you may respond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I don't understand why we should start debating whether RDA is going to hire a contractor or RDA is going to hire the equipment. The fact of the matter is that this road will be done by next month. And I've got information that 60 kilometers of this road has already been done. So it is a question of what is remaining, the 12 kilometers or so that is remaining, that will be done, and there shouldn't be a problem. I submit.
Thank you. That is an assurance made for the Honorable Member for Bangweulu. Wait for December, Honorable Member. Notice of motion, the Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House urges government to enhance regulation on online gambling.
Is the motion seconded?
Madam Speaker, duly seconded by the people of Kamfinsa. Thank you.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Kamfinsa. The question is that this House urges the government to enhance regulation of online gambling. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
The Honorable Madam Speaker, thank you for allowing me to address this House on a matter that demands our immediate attention: gambling, particularly its unregulated online form, which is silently devastating families and futures across Zambia. Gambling in its traditional form has long been part of our human society. However, its unchecked nature often leads to tragic consequences. Many families in our nation can recount tales of loved ones who have lost livelihoods, property, or even their lives to gambling addiction. Today, this issue has taken a new, more insidious form through online gambling, which is pervasive, accessible, and unregulated. Madam Speaker, let me illustrate this crisis with a story of Grace Peary. Grace is a 20-year-old college student from Lusaka, raised by her mother Mary Peary, a seamstress who worked tirelessly to support her daughter's education after her family's finances were ruined by gambling. Grace's father, David Peary, a career economist, a man of great promise, but David struggled with a gambling addiction. His compulsive betting on sports and lotteries drained the family's savings, cost him his job, and led to the loss of their family home. Unable to bear the shame and despair, David tragically took his own life. Mary, left to pick up the pieces, vowed to protect Grace from the pain of gambling, the pain gambling had caused on their family. Years later, Madam Speaker, the menace of gambling found Grace in a different form. As a first-year student, Grace was introduced to online gambling through flashy ads promising free bets and instant riches. Initially, it was a way to make quick money to ease her mother's burden, but like her father, Grace found herself trapped. What began as small bets quickly spiraled into larger ones as she tried to recover her losses. To fund her addiction, Grace diverted her meal allowance, borrowed money from friends, and finally gambled her way with her tuition fees. When the debts became overwhelming, Grace dropped out of school. Today she's battling depression, joblessness, and a cycle of despair similar to that of her father. Online gambling offers many opportunities, Madam Speaker, for criminal entrepreneurs to engage in fraud, theft, extortion, and money laundering in and around gambling sites. The large amounts of e-cash that execute online gambling sites provide significant rewards for the dishonest. For example, in Ontario, Canada, a company dealing in gambling, a Toronto-based company, provided software online to casinos. In 2001, hackers exploited the vulnerability of this company in its software to alter the outcome of casino games operated by licensees. The manipulation allowed approximately 140 gamblers to collectively win over 1.9 million US dollars in just a few hours. Madam Speaker, research done in East Africa revealed that the most prevalent reason for suicides among university male students aged between 20 and 40 years were reported from those who use their tuition fees for gambling and those losing money. And Madam Speaker, in July 2024, closer to home, a Zambian university male student who was allegedly reported to have been abducted and that his abductors were demanding ransom from his parents for his release, later came to reveal that the abduction was fabricated and orchestrated to extort money after squandering the funds he had through betting on his smartphone. Honorable Madam Speaker, Grace's story is not an anomaly. It's a chilling example of how unregulated gambling, particularly online gambling, destroys lives. The anonymity, accessibility, and the aggressive...
Honorable members, the consultations are too loud, especially the corner where there is the Honorable Member Fonkana. That corner there. If you want to caucus, please just walk out. The Honorable Member Fonkana. I think I'm addressing you. Can we lower our voices? You are not the only ones listening to the debate by the Honorable Member for Kanchibia. Let's give him chance to debate. The Honorable Member for Kanchibia, you may continue.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I said the anonymity, the accessibility, and the aggressive marketing of online platforms make them more particularly dangerous. Regulation, Madam Speaker, is not about banning gambling. I repeat, that regulation is not about banning gambling. It is about protecting citizens like Grace and her family from the devastating effects. To this effect, Madam Speaker, we propose the following measures. Number one, strict licensing requirements. Ensuring that all gambling operators, especially online ones, are licensed with strict enforcement for fair practice and transparency. At the moment, different types of gambling are licensed by different ministries. Local government, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Tourism. On this score, we are calling for regulation through a centralized regulatory authority to ensure all forms of gambling, including online gambling, under this regulatory authority. Number two, age verification. Madam Speaker, I wish to propose that the government implements robust systems to verify the age of users, preventing minors from accessing gambling platforms. Number three, we are proposing that government introduces caps on how much individuals can bet or lose in a given period to prevent financial ruin. Number four, we are proposing that we launch national campaigns to educate citizens, especially young people, on the risks of gambling addiction. Number five, we are proposing that we impose taxes, and we know that there are taxes already, but we impose further taxes on gambling operators and allocate the revenue to social programs, including mental health services and youth empowerment activities. Madam Speaker, we wish to say that there is also need to establish accessible support systems for those struggling with gambling addiction, including counseling and rehabilitation. In terms of socio-economic benefits, Madam Speaker, it is our recommendation that regulating online gambling will not only protect families but also generate revenue for the critical national projects. a portion that needs to be channeled into education, healthcare, youth programs, creating opportunities for the most vulnerable. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, allow me to say that Grace's story should be a wake-up call for all of us. Gambling destroyed her father's life, as now it's threatening hers. If we fail to act, we will see more lives ruined by this unchecked menace. Regulation is not just a matter of policy, it is a moral obligation. I urge this House to take a stand for families like the Piris, ensuring that no child loses their future to gambling addiction. Honorable Madam Speaker, let us not allow the stories of Grace and David Piri to be repeated in other homes across Zambia. I urge that the honorable members of this House who support this motion to regulate online gambling and protect the lives, dreams and futures of our citizens. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Madam Speaker, I wish to debate right now.
The honorable member for Kamfinsa.
Allow me once again, Madam Speaker, to thank your office for allowing this public conversation to be brought to Parliament. And I'm calling it a public conversation, Madam Speaker, because the topic that we are discussing relates to the future of our country and how we can secure that future. Madam Speaker, may I also thank the mover of the motion, and I want to indicate from the onset, Madam Speaker, that one of our responsibilities as Parliament is to simplify these conversations that take place in this August House, so that as the people are following out there, they are able to relate to exactly what we are discussing. Madam Speaker, I will try as much as possible to help this conversation by simplifying the angle that I feel needs urgent attention in as far as online gambling is concerned, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is important that first of all, people understand the process that companies have to go through before they can register a business that has to do online gambling business in Zambia. If a foreign company today, Madam Speaker, came into Zambia to register a business, the first point of contact is obviously our agency, which is PACRA. So stage number one, Madam Speaker, a company goes to PACRA, registers that particular business name, and the second stage is for that particular company, Madam Speaker, to go to an agency called the Betting Control and Licensing Board. So in Zambia, we have a board, Madam Speaker, that has to give you a license if you want to do online gambling business. So stage two, Madam Speaker, you get a license. Stage three is where now that business has to identify which district are they going to operate from. Are they going to operate from Kitwe? Are they going to operate from Lusaka? So there will now be a requirement to go to the local authority, which is the third stage. So you register a company, you get a license to do gambling business, and then you go to a local authority to get what is called a business permit. Now, in this whole process, Madam Speaker, we seem to have challenges, and that is why, for me, I was interested in contributing to this debate today, because it appears, Madam Speaker, that despite getting a license, despite a business operating in a particular area to do what is called online gambling, Madam Speaker, we have a problem. Young people as young as the age of 10, young people as young as the age of 13 years, Madam Speaker, are able to do gambling today. And the question I'm asking myself as a member of Parliament is that gambling in itself is a business that ZRA needs to get a tax. So there's no debate, Madam Speaker, about whether we should allow gambling as a business to operate in Zambia. The laws of Zambia allow gambling to take place. So, Madam Speaker, I want this conversation to be very clear from the onset. The proposal is not asking that we ban this business called gambling. My understanding and my submission, Madam Speaker, is that if you are able to get a business license, if you are able to get authority from a local authority to undertake this business called online gambling, I'm asking myself, Madam Speaker, why should young people at the age of 10, 11, 12, so long you have a phone, you are able to access all these platforms for online gambling? Madam Speaker, we will fail this country if we don't discuss this issue and propose what should be done to ensure that we protect our people. And can I emphasize something very important, Madam Speaker? This Parliament in 2021 passed a law. There's a law in Zambia called Betting Control Act number 50 of 2021. There's a law. The law under Section 22, Madam Speaker, is very clear. If you are below the age of 18, you can't do gambling. You can't do betting. That is what the law says. So, Madam Speaker, for me, I have one particular issue with this particular subject. The issue of those who are doing underage betting. Why should a 10-year-old, Madam Speaker, go to a betting platform, quickly just open a platform and be able to bet that easily? It's so easy, Madam Speaker. Despite the law saying only those who are 18 years and above should be able to do betting. Currently, Madam Speaker, these online platforms, they don't have any security measure that can prevent young people from doing gambling. And for me, I'm standing here, Madam Speaker, and I want to emphasize, ZRA needs the taxes. Gambling is a business. PACRA registers those businesses. But why should we allow young people? Why should there be no control measures that are put in place? Why should a business go and register in Kitwe to do gambling? Young people walk into those shops, Madam Speaker. Apart from online gambling, you can actually do manual gambling as well. All you need is a book. The book will show which games are taking place, how many games are taking place in Europe, and even if you are 10 years, Madam Speaker, there is no control that is currently in place. So for me, my submission, Madam Speaker, is that Zambia believes in people earning income. I have no problem, Madam Speaker, with people that are earning income who are responsible. But I have a problem, Madam Speaker, with anyone, so long you have a gadget, so long you can walk into any shop that is branded as a betting company. Madam Speaker, we need to do something. Are we saying we do away with gambling as a business? Madam Speaker, that is not what the people of Kamfinsa are saying. The people of Kamfinsa are saying this is a source of revenue for the Ministry of Finance. We get taxes, and I know that the law was amended recently to allow for taxes to be gotten from people who are doing gambling. But the question is, Madam Speaker, are people doing gambling in a responsible manner? How do we ensure that our young children, those who are growing, those we give gadgets, I know so many parents, Madam Speaker, allow their children to have gadgets. What are we doing to prevent those young people from accessing these online platforms and be able to participate in betting? According to the laws of Zambia, the 1957 Betting Control Act, Madam Speaker, which was amended in 1989 to introduce a provision that you must be 18 years old for you to do betting. 1989, Madam Speaker, this Parliament amended that law. And that law was later amended in 2021. I'll be failing in my duties, Madam Speaker, if I don't put this on record. We are not suggesting that betting, that gambling should be suspended. What I'm proposing and what I'm supporting today is that, Madam Speaker, we need to put measures in place. Measures that allow for responsible betting. We can't have our young children, 8, 10 years old, doing what we call online gambling. We need to put those measures in place. And, Madam Speaker, I'll be a proud Member of Parliament if this August House supports that thought that we need to put regulations in place. And may I conclude by stating, Madam Speaker, that the law that I've quoted under Section 28 empowers the Minister to come up with those regulations. And I'm confident, after this discussion, Madam Speaker, debate has to ensue on how best we can implement this proposal. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kabwe Central.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Kabwe Central to add a voice on the motion before this floor. At the onset, I want to say that I'm in support of the motion because indeed it's high overdue that we talk about these issues. You know, betting comes in many forms. Of course, we have got commercial type of betting, like lotteries, which the government, of course, need to collect revenue. And we find because there are no controls, the government is losing a lot of revenue in terms of taxes. So we need to come up with regulations that will make sure that there will be no tax evasion. Of course, we want to say we can only restrict ourselves to online betting. There's also manual. We have got bonanzas, and I think that comes under means of local government, which of course has effect, psychological and emotions on our children. We know that we have seen young children that participate in betting, playing bonanza, instead of going to school, instead of concentrating in class, they want to knock off air and go and participate in such activities, which is not good for our children. And we need to make sure that we come up with regulations, which we know, as we have heard, that we already have the laws that are not allowing our young children to participate, but we need to make sure we reinforce. We add on laws that will make sure that they will be punished. Those people who allow children to participate, they'll be punished if they are found wanting. Also, I want to say that I'm a woman, and I've heard the stories where even men, they put women for betting. This is not right. A human being has no value that can attach, that can put a woman on the table, that if you don't win, you get my woman. So I want to make sure that these regulations, as we come up them, will put strict punishment for anyone who puts a human being on the table while they are betting. So I thought I should add a voice to say that we are in support of the motion, and the need is self-explanatory. It's high time that we need to make sure that we come up with regulations to put controls. I think the move of the motion and also the second has sufficiently given us the ideas behind this. Not to kill the industry, but to make sure that we put a regulation that is going to control these betting activities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Very economical with time. The Honorable Member from Nkana.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to also add a voice on this motion that has been moved by the Honorable Member of Parliament from Kanchivia, who is calling for the enhancing of the regulation of online gambling. I want to start by apologizing to my dear brother Christopher Kangombe, MP for Kamfinsa, because for the very first time I may seem to want to go against his line of thought, even though to some extent I do agree with the line he's taken. I also want to apologize to Honorable Sunday Chanda, because unfortunately I will not be supporting this motion. Now, Madam Speaker, Honorable Sunday, Member of Parliament for Kanchivia, is calling for enhancing the regulation that governs online gambling. Obviously, to enhance refers to intensify. We want to put stringent measures to the already existing regulations. Honorable Kangombe has highlighted the number of regulations that are already in place, dating as far back as the 1980s, when this law that regulates gambling was first enacted. Okay? Because, Madam Speaker, I was trying to understand, because the mover and the seconder got me lost at some point. And I like the thought of Honorable Christopher Kangombe, who has emphasized on regulating what age of Zambians are going to be involved in gambling. I would have thought that this motion would have been couched to pin out this particular fear that young people below the age of 18 are involved in gambling. But the motion is very open-ended. It is asking for over-regulation. Madam Speaker, there already exist laws in this country that are already regulating online gambling. It's not like we are starting from nowhere. There is already a law that is regulating online gambling. The question we may be asking today, what is the mover's intention with this request? What is it trying to cure? Is it the aspect that Honorable Kangombe has brought in, particularly the issue of young people being involved, or it is the aspect that the mover had put in? Because if you followed the move of the motion, He was worried. In fact, he was suggesting we may go as far as capping how much people can earn through betting.
Point of order.
Now I think that is very sad. Because, Madam Speaker, betting or gambling is basically a game of chances where you earn some income.
Honorable member, is that an indication for a point?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Mongo Central a chance to raise a point of order. I think the debater who is on the floor of the House now is not only misleading himself, but also misleading the House and the nation at large, and the whole SADC region. He is very well aware that this legislation, that Honorable Kangombe, who was seconding this motion, and the Honorable Chanda, who was proposing, who was moving this motion, is very well aware that they mentioned that when this legislation were enacted, it was as early or as far back as the early 90s or the late 80s, when there was no internet, when there was no online gambling. Now, is it in order to start talking about legislation that is in place now, that's regulating online gambling, when he's very much aware that in 1971, in 1981, there was no internet and online gambling happening? I think you're very serious ruling, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to take note that the honorable ministers are going to respond. And also the honorable member for Mongo Central, I've seen your name there. You've indicated to debate. So I'll give you an opportunity where you are going to give us your views. So may the honorable member for Nkana continue.
Madam Speaker, it is important for people not to speak for the sake of just speaking.
The honorable member for Nkana, just to continue with the debate.
I'm not speaking for the sake of speaking, Madam Speaker. Me, I'm speaking to facts. This law was first enacted in the 80s. It was amended in 2021. I don't know where the honorable member for Mongo is coming from, because in 2021, social media has been there. There is already a law, Madam Speaker, and it must be put on record. The law presently, including the Betting Control Board, they already regulates online gambling. There is already a law. What the Honorable Member of Parliament for Honorable Sunday is suggesting is that we enhance this already existing law. The motion is explicit, it's clear. It is calling for the enhancement of the already existing law. Sir, there is already a law. He is only asking for enhancement of that law. Enhancement meaning just simply, strengthen it or improve it.
The honorable member for Nkana, please address me.
Madam Speaker,
the honorable
Madam
member
Speaker,
for Mongo.
This is why I am against this motion. Number one, gambling is simply a business. Any one of us can go and gamble to earn money. If we are concerned about age, that is another subject, and I would have loved the move of the motion to keep it, that ours is the interest to regulate those who are underage. Madam Speaker, the move of the motion has conflicted himself by proposing that we may need to put in that law a capping, a limit as to how much can be betted for or how much people can earn. Can you imagine going into business and regulating how much people can make from that business? Can you imagine? Why do people gamble? People gamble, and the first understanding is that this is a business of chances. You predict that Nkana is going to beat power and you earn some money out of it. Is he hallucinating, Madam Speaker? Or you were sleeping? I forgive you. Madam Speaker, let's look at the current prevailing situation. Young people today in Zambia are roaming the streets without job opportunities. Madam Speaker, the animal called unemployment is haunting
the new Dawn government. Young institution today, Madam Speaker, they leave universities, they leave tertiary institutions, there is nowhere to go to get employed. The reason why people are resorting to go and involve themselves in a business called gambling is that this government has failed to create employment opportunities for these young people. And I want to put it on record, it's not just including some of these who are here. They are betting online. They are betting. Everyone, a lot of people are betting and they are earning revenues. The people who are working today, Madam Speaker, are working for peanuts compared to how much the cost of living is. Do you know what gambling does or betting does? It enhances their income. Because we are living in tough times, Madam Speaker. The proposition here is to take the little a fallback, because gambling today has become a fallback for many Zambians today, and I'm not just talking about young people, including adults. So the proposition here is let us over-regulate, because there is already a law, Speaker. I refuse to be part of a grouping of people who are going to decide or make a decision to take away the little fallback for the young people or for the Zambians. This law already exists and it is enough to regulate online gambling. What we must be focusing on as a people here is to create opportunities, not to take away opportunities from these young people. If you enhance or you over-regulate gambling, you are taking away the little fallback for the young people for whom we have not provided a means of livelihood. Madam Speaker, I want to put it on categorically that I refuse to be part of those people who are going to take away the little that young people are surviving on today. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity.
Member for Nyimba. You haven't been given the floor. You may continue, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to debate on this motion that is on the floor of the House. Let me begin by saying I'm in full support of this motion. Let me also thank the Honorable Member, Honorable Sunday Chanda, for bringing this progressive motion, for bringing this progressive motion to this House. Let me also thank the Honorable Member for Kampinsa for also seconding the motion. And Madam Speaker, I'm going to give the reasons as to why I support this motion on the floor. But before I start, let me begin by saying, I think as Parliament, sometimes it's important for us to realize the implications and the importance of certain motions as they come to this House. And we should not trivialize them. I speak today not because I'm a parliamentarian, but because I'm also a mother. And I know what online gambling has done to our children. And I also know that right now Zambia has like 40% penetration of internet. What does that do? Our children's fallback should not be betting. As a country, you cannot build a country whose fallback is betting. Madam Speaker, when it comes to online betting, a child who's as young as have access to a phone, they are able to bet. Because there's no regulation, or we have not tightened regulation in regards to this betting. And when you go to the law, actually, there is no mention of online betting. No, they speak about this other, the ones that you find. But even today, Madam Speaker, if you go to every little shop that you find in society, you will find a machine there, where there's no age restriction as to whether a child cannot bet or not. And I want to take off the leaf of what the mover said. You see children being brought to the university. They've been given school fees. There is no regulations that governs, no betting. A child as young as 16, as 17, they've taken their money and they've bet it off, and they want to multiply it quickly. Madam Speaker, let me also borrow from our colleagues here what they say. They say, haraka haraka haina baraka.
which means things that are done in a hurry, usually they do not have a blessing. If you want to multiply your money that quickly, it will not have a blessing. So the motion here does not say we should ban betting. What the motion here is saying is we should be able to regulate. And I think that is important because as you go on the internet, regardless of your age, you are able to bet. Let me also come back to the issue of our children looking at gambling as a way of survival. Madam Speaker, we've had the privilege of going to other countries and see how much value addition that they are able to do. Madam Speaker, we have so much opportunities that we have in this country that we've not taken into account. Right now, there's a bill that was a bill that was being passed. I mean, the discussion that is being what we're having in regards to value addition. You go to places like where the member of parliament is coming from, Munkana, where they have these resources that they actually throw out. When I travel with him, he's the first one to go and buy that value addition being done by the children in other countries. So my expectation is that we should be able to promote things that are sustainable, that couch and teach our children hard work, than for us to teach our children at an early age that gambling is okay. And also, Madam Speaker, you should understand that gambling is very, very addictive. Like the Honorable said, we have people here that do gambling. I suspect maybe could be one of them from what he was saying. Gambling can be very, very addictive. Madam Speaker, gambling is very, very addictive. That means that when you introduce children or you do not regulate this, you have children that are already growing up and already addicted to gambling at an early age. You cannot, the same way we control things that we put in our children, the same way we agree that children should not drink before a certain age, the same way that we agree that children should not smoke before a certain age, the same way that we agree that children should not do certain things before they are a certain age. It's the same that we should do when it comes to gambling.
Order, Honorable Member for Mwandi. There is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Chitambo, what's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, you see, Madam Speaker, surely she can be calling me like that.
I didn't get that.
That's why last time, Madam Speaker, I wanted to lay on the table there.
What's the point of order, Honorable Member?
Madam Speaker, the point of order is on the two ministers sitting behind there. Madam Speaker, I'm a law-abiding member of this House. There are pews in here where ministers are supposed to sit, and which is the front bench, Madam Speaker. As of this afternoon, Madam Speaker, I haven't heard any reshuffles to any of the two ministers. That bench, Madam Speaker, where, Madam Speaker, are they in order to sit comfortably there when we need them to be in front there to answer to the many issues we are raising here and pretend to be backbenchers when they are not, Madam Speaker? I need your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
I don't know whether the honorable members were seeing a backbencher, but I see no backbencher there with them. The honorable ministers, please find your way to the front, unless if you are consulting the backbenchers. We make progress. The honorable member for Mwandi.
Yeah. Madam Speaker. Exactly. He's been instructed to come and take a seat. So this is exactly where it was coming from, but we respect what the Speaker said. So, Madam Speaker, as I was saying there are so many things that we regulate in this country because we do not want our children to get the addiction. And they're not yet mature enough to handle certain things. When it comes to betting, Madam Speaker, the same way that we control, in as much as we're not saying we are banning alcohol, we do not allow a child that is below 18 to drink. In the same way that we don't ban smoking in the country, we have certain restrictions that we've put in place to make sure that this can be a safe space. And remember, this is also linked to education. These days, our children have tablets. They are able to e-learn. There are so many opportunities that exist for our children to learn online. But in that, there's also the danger that comes, the temptation that comes to betting. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted to say we should actually not just end at the online betting, but I think that we should also go back and look at the act itself so that we can modify. I think that the law that we have is now archaic when it comes to betting. When you go to these shops, Madam Speaker, you will find gadgets there where children can go and bet, and there's no age restriction. So we are saying we should go back and actually look at the act and make sure that we put restrictions that will protect the children of this country. With that being said, Madam Speaker, I want to support the motion that has been moved, but in addition, we should not just end at the online betting. We should go back and also doing the ones that are doing the land, what do you say? The ones that are doing the casinos. Let's go back and also just make sure that we look at those and strengthen the law. And I'm saying this, Madam Speaker, not because we want to take away income from those ones that, from government. We know that this is a source of government income as well, but we cannot just look at income without looking at the children that we have in our houses and the citizens or the youth that we want to protect. And this, I must say, like I earlier said, this gambling is very, very addictive. So we should be able to protect our children and put measures to make sure that they are protected for the future, and also encourage hard work, just opposed to betting. With that being said, Madam Speaker, I would want to submit.
Thank you. I'll get the last voice, the voice from the PF, the Honorable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to add my voice to this very important subject. Madam Speaker, as a nation, we have sufficient laws that govern the betting, the online betting. And one of them is the Betting Act of 2017, which updated the original Act, the 2001. Madam Speaker, it provides for a framework, a regulatory framework that is very enough. When we decide to deal with the issue of online betting, first we have to deal with the root cause. You cannot treat a cancer patient using Panadol. You are just relieving the pain. It has to be radiotherapy and chemotherapy, Madam Speaker. In this case, if we have to deal with the issue of online gambling, number one, we must deal with the issue of unemployment. Madam Speaker, currently, our youths are confronted with unemployment and lack of job opportunities, standing at 12%, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the government must create jobs for our youths. Then we will deter them from engaging in online betting. And her face looks like she's constipated, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member from Pika. That is an insult. The Honorable Member from Pika, can you withdraw and apologize?
I withdraw and apologize, Madam Speaker, to my colleague, but let her also know that we are here for serious business, Madam Speaker.
Order, Honorable Member. You are not apologetic because of the statement that you've just added.
I have apologized, Madam Speaker.
We are all here to represent our people. Whether one is laughing, smiling, or gloomy, we are representing our people. You may sit down, your honorable member. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. If you allow me to just compose myself, I'm a little bit disturbed. Madam Speaker, first of all, I'd just like to thank you for granting me the opportunity to contribute to the debate on the private member's motion, which I called Enhancing Regulation on Online Gambling, end quote, moved by Mr. Sunday Chanda, Member of Parliament for Kachivia, that the House urges the government of the Republic of Zambia to enhance regulation of online gambling. Madam Speaker, let me also thank the members who have so far debated, and I wish my Honorable Minister of Finance will wind up debate very soon from both sides. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Tourism is mandated with Gazette Notice number 7039 of 2021 to regulate casinos and register hotel managers. In this regard, casinos and accommodation establishments are required to be compliant through the payment of casinos and managers' registration fees, a vital source of revenue for our treasury. Madam Speaker, in the recent past, the country has seen a rise in the incorporation of gambling entities, while the policy and regulatory framework for the gambling industry has remained stagnant, making it unresponsive to the regulatory needs of the emerging online gambling platform. As at the end of September, Madam Speaker, 2024, there were a total number of 85 registered casinos comprising of 40 land-based casinos with over 700 employees, and 45 online casinos with slightly above 200 employees. Madam Speaker, the unanticipated dynamics brought about by the advancement of technology in the increase in the number of operators has called for a robust and effective policy and legislative framework in the gambling industry. The current regulatory framework has evident weaknesses and loopholes, as it does not take into account the emergent online gambling platforms brought about by the transition in Zambia's economic and technological landscapes. The absence of effective policy and legislation framework is what has made gambling industry and online gambling industry in particular a menace to society and indeed Zambia as a whole. Madam Speaker, I just want to make mention that the gambling industry is currently regulated by 6 fragmented pieces of legislation falling under different ministries responsible, and I will name them, Madam Speaker: the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Finance and National Planning, and that of the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And I want to indicate that the different pieces of legislation that we have is that of the Lotteries Act of 1994, the State Lotteries Act of 1994, the Pools Act of 1994, the Gaming Machines Prohibition Act of 1994, the Betting and Control Act of 1994, and last but not least, the Tourism and Hospitality Act of 2015. Madam Speaker, the solution of the social ills presented by the online gambling industry lies in the provision of a harmonized policy and regulatory framework. Despite its contribution to Treasury, government does acknowledge the social ills posed by the regulatory gaps associated with online gambling industry. In some instances, this has led to the social problems, especially where addiction to the vice is concerned. These include family breakdowns, loss of property, and what we tend to not pay attention to, that of mental health. It is envisaged that full resolution of the regulatory challenges of online gambling shall be meted for responsible gambling. I'll repeat, my ministry will collaborate with other relevant stakeholders in establishing an effective regulatory institutional framework that facilitates responsible gambling. The revised regulatory framework is set to protect citizens from irresponsible gambling. In this regard, Madam Speaker, a team of experts from key institutions, as I mentioned earlier, has been constituted to facilitate for the review of the regulatory framework governing the Gaming and Lotteries Act. This, Madam Speaker, speaks to what we in the UPND are striving to achieve in terms of reducing the cost of doing business and indeed collapsing the multiplicity of licenses that we have, which obviously you may have heard before, we inherited from the previous regime. Therefore, Madam Speaker, this House will be kept informed on the progress that will be made with regards to the matter of making it easy for us to realize revenue from gambling, making sure that there is responsible gambling that exists in our country. We will have this matter attended to by our ministry with priority. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Of order.
Madam Speaker, I rise on a very, very serious point of order. During this time of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, when the whole world is looking at how women are being handled in terms of gender equality and parity, today, a member of parliament, actually very inflammatory words to a member of parliament, a female member of parliament. And yesterday, imagine describing her, the words that are very insulting. As women, we are very, very, disheartened from the words that came from the member of parliament of Mpika in this House of Laws. We feel as women the punishment or the words to be told just to withdraw and apologize is not enough for us women, not during this time. This is the reason why we don't have many women in parliament, because we are injured emotionally and psychologically by just those words. You don't know how far it has gone in her mind today just to say that. So, Madam Speaker, I need your serious ruling. Just to tell him, just to apologize or withdraw, that is not enough for us women. We are insulted and we want a serious ruling, not what has been given. Is the parliament in order even to keep quiet? Even women who should have walked out now because of those words that he has said. We are very, very angry about what he has said about our fellow woman. Madam Speaker, I need your serious ruling.
Order, honorable members. The honorable member for Kabwe Central.
Coming from standing order number 72, Madam Speaker, thank you.
Okay. Honorable members, I had actually ruled, I had instructed the honorable member from Mpika to withdraw and apologize. On top of that, I didn't allow him to continue with his debate. Maybe guide honorable members. This applies to all the honorable members. Let us respect the women. Let's not use unparliamentary words in the House. The honorable member for Lunte, can you give me an opportunity? Can we be mindful of the words that we are using? We are all adults here. We are leaders. We are representing the people. Thousands and thousands of people. Now, if the people hear the words that are being said by some honorable members, they seem to wonder. Because even in the constituencies, we've got women. So please, let's be mindful of the words that we use, especially against the women. The honorable member for Mpika was told to apologize and he withdrew the word. There is also something that we are arranging as an office to deal with the honorable member from Pika. Because we've seen order, dealing means, it doesn't mean you have to punish the member. Sometimes it means just talking one-to-one. Order, honorable members, we make progress, but please, can you observe my guide? Let us respect the women in this house and the women outside this house. We make progress. The honorable member for Kanchivia will wind up debate.
Madam Speaker, allow me to thank the executive for unanimously supporting this motion. Allow me to also thank the people of Kamfinsa for agreeing to second this very important motion. Allow me to thank the people of Kabwe Central for debating in support of this motion, and to say that we identify with the challenge of bonanzas, even as Kanchivia constituency. It's a menace that we need to look at. And so the call for comprehensive regulation is very much welcome. Madam Speaker, allow me to thank the people of Unkana who debated in opposition. It is called democracy and holding divergent views. Contestation of ideas, at the end of the day, the best idea will carry the day. In our submission, Madam Speaker, we did call for age verification, and that remains on record. Allow me to thank the people of Mwandi constituency for supporting this motion, and apologies in any way that it would have been. Beyond online betting to other forms of gambling is a clarion call that could have been made. Let me thank the honorable member from Pika for debating in opposition. Allow me to thank the honorable minister of tourism for the magnanimity to support this very important motion. Madam Speaker, just as I wind down, allow me to just make reference to some very brief civics I learned, that the duty of creating jobs, is not just the onus of the executive, it is the onus of government. And government in this regard speaks to the three arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. In this regard, Madam Speaker, the executive has a duty, and the duty by the executive is to ensure that they work on the policies, etc. But we have a duty to ensure that we drive an agenda as a house of solutions, to ensure that we bring progressive motions in this house, such as enhancing the sort of regulation we're talking about, not to take away jobs, but to bring about quality jobs. If we're going to replace betting with quality jobs, then we are condemning our society and the future of this nation to becoming a nation of crookedness, and we'll be unable to deal with the challenges we're going to face in the days that lie ahead. Madam Speaker, let me not waste time, just to say the people of Kanchivia remain ever grateful to the wisdom of members of this House on either sides of the aisle. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
I put the question. The question is that this House urges the government to enhance regulation of online gambling. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the next motion. The honorable member for Mapatizia.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the delegation to the 50th Parliamentary Association Africa Region Conference and Annual General Meeting held in Arusha, Tanzania from the 28th September to 6th October 2024 for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table on the House on the 31st October 2024.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker, the people of Ron Constituency gladly seconds the motion.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Ron. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Zambian delegation to the 53rd Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa Regional Conference and Annual General Meeting held in Arusha, Tanzania from 29th September to 6th October 2024 for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 31st October 2024. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Mapatizia.
Madam Speaker, this report is presented to the House pursuant to Standing Order 154 of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024.
Order. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes.
For still being with us on Parliament Television, business has been suspended for a 20-minute break, and at the time business was suspended, Mapatizia Member of Parliament, Ms. Imelda Munashabantu, was just about to start debating the motion that she has moved, adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 53rd Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa Regional Conference and Annual General Meeting. This motion has been seconded by Mr. Joel Chiwie, who is one Member of Parliament.
The House has so far considered 3 questions under Standing Order 8 and 1 private member's motion, which was brought by Kanchiria Member of Parliament, Mr. Sunday Chanda.
And earlier on, when business resumed, Madam First Deputy Speaker did make some announcements, and in her announcements she recognized the presence in the public gallery of 3 consultants in artificial intelligence. In the other announcement, she recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Sharma School in Chongwe District.
And in the other announcement, Madam Speaker did recognize the presence in the public gallery of a group of youths undertaking capacity building in a leadership under the Youth Leadership Development Program, YLDP, which is being facilitated by the Frederick Ebeta Stiftung in Lusaka District. And on behalf of the National Assembly, Madam Speaker did welcome the visitors to the National Assembly.
And on that note, we now go on a break. We'll join you on the other side. Keep watching Parliament Television.
Zambezi Magic is all about the best local shows, Vane, keeping you and I hooked on that Z flavor.